Today's video is going to be about transitioning into the carnivore diet. So any tips that we have, we're not experts on the topic, but we've been through it, so we'll share what it was like for us,
what to expect,
and then also transitioning to a more nose to tail carnivore diet. So if you're interested in eating more nose to tail, we got you. Tips coming soon.
What's up?
Good morning. Good girl.
So we are on our way home from the gym after getting some light steps in on this off day. And tip number one for all of you people who are interested in transitioning to carnivore is to not be afraid of increasing your electrolyte consumption. So Sarah and I will specifically talk about our experience transitioning later on in this video, but wanted to share that tip because we always walk around with some Redmond sea salt. So you always hear when transitioning from standard American diet to keto diet, you should increase your electrolytes, and that's because as you're consuming less carbs, your body is depleting its carb sources, so your body is going to switch from retaining water to flushing water out, and electrolytes are going to be a part of the water, so your body will be flushing through some electrolytes. Now, if you think about carnivore, you're going from keto, which has some amount of carbs, to carnivore, which is zero carbs, so I think that that is an important thing to keep in mind, is that your body is going to be continuing to deplete its carb sources and will flush out more. And I think that this is one of the reasons why my transition to carnivore was somewhat seamless, because I really increased my electrolyte consumption, especially salt, as I was transitioning.
All right, we are back home making our first meal of the day and just going to continue on with the tips for transitioning into carnivore. My next tip for you would be to have a deeper understanding of this lifestyle. So if that means doing some research into the potential positive effects for the environment that taking a regenerative approach to carnivore has, because chances are somebody's going to come at you with the argument of, especially if they're pro plant-based and vegan, that you're going to be harming the environment with how much meat you're eating. And so that when you take a regenerative approach and you source from high quality places, that's simply not true. We care about we are huge sustainability freaks. We would not be able to do this lifestyle if that were the case. So if somebody is going to question you on that, it may lead to you doubting yourself or you feeling bad and not understanding how to respond. So having just this general understanding of the holistic approach to this lifestyle and everything that it does for the planet, is a good idea.
Just really be prepared that people are going to question you, which is going to make you doubt yourself, not only on the sustainability and environment side, but also nutritionally, right? Because we've been told these lies for so many years, and it's really hard when someone comes up to you and says like, hey, with all this red meat consumption, aren't you worried about cardiovascular disease and items like that? So really get an understanding of why you're doing this diet so you can explain to someone else. We're gonna link a Instagram post where we included how we responded to this question over the holidays and Christmas, and it's almost like we have like a template that you could put in your answers, but then we also share what we had as well.
Yeah, and you don't have to be an expert at these things. Like you don't have to be you're never, if you're not huge
a doctor
or science nerd, you're never going to be considered an expert.
We aren't experts.
No, what you could do instead is just have like a list of resources that you can provide to other people if they're interested in learning more, and then go on your way, doing your bad self thing. P.S. This one I'm about to cook some beautiful round steaks
with that beautiful fat cap.
Yes.
Also, tip number 3 is going to be, we suggest trying to prioritize your fat intake. And so, speaking of, we're going to use some bone marrow, some raw bone marrow. I'm going to have this at our next meal from these marrow bones from our full cow. And honestly, I think that this is why we had such success when transitioning and we didn't feel poopy or crappy. We really increased our fat intake and ate pretty high fat. That's because we came in without weight loss goals, and I would encourage you guys to come into that way as well. Don't come into the diet trying to lose weight. Come into the diet trying to feel at your best, right?
Yes.
You want to be kicking butt. You want to be feeling good, setting yourself up for success. Down the line, you can get to weight loss goals, but when you're starting, try to make yourself feel great. And in carnivore, we're only consuming fats and protein, and fats are ultimately an energy source.
Protein's the building block.
Protein's the building block. So while we're not saying overdo it on fat, and you don't have to stress about how much fat you're doing, but don't skimp on it, because we think that that's going to lead to higher energy levels, which is going to encourage you to continue with this way of life.
Honestly, if you are feeling better, you're going to have more energy throughout the day. So if you do have weight loss goals, you'll naturally start doing more, being more active. It's like a really nice cycle to be in, as opposed to like forcing yourself to do things.
Plus, if you're eating a little bit more, you're going to be providing yourself with more and more bioavailable nutrients that your body is just going to love and soak in.
Soak it in. Soak it in. Another tip could be if you are like intimidated by all this, you really could keep things simple and just be doing like
Steak and eggs.
Steak and eggs approach. It's like keep it familiar to what you're used to, so it's not this huge jump into a bunch of like organ meats. Granted, incorporating liver at least is a good idea because there are so many nutrients in liver that you might not otherwise get just from eating all meat. I don't know, plenty of people doing just the all meat approach who do just fine. We like the nose to tail approach because it provides a lot of variety. And that's something we're going to go into a few, like probably our video tomorrow will be nose to tail.
But if you're feeling overwhelmed on what the heck do I eat, can I eat from an animal, right? So steak, eggs, things that you're familiar with. You can include cheese. That's totally fine. You can include dairy. If that helps you stay committed and like don't feel restricted in this way of life, totally fine. You don't have to include organs from the start,
and you don't have to in general either, but it's a more variety option if you feel restricted or you think you're gonna feel restricted, or if you're a foodie like us and you love to just like get creative in the kitchen and cook fun things. So
in summary, don't stress out about it, keep it simple.
I did say in the beginning of this video that we'll talk more about nose to tail, but I'm going to put that into tomorrow's video, or else it's just going to be like a year-long vlog today, and I don't think I can keep your attention for a year. This is 2 days in a row of breaking an egg yolk when trying to separate it. So this is what we're gonna do. Ready, buddy? Ready? Oh, yeah, boy! Give me a high five. Give me a... Nope.
Alright, it is time for platter number 1. We've got a pretty simple meal. Round, raw chicken yolk, some lightly seared beef liver, and then a large mound of the raw bone marrow. But before we start to eat, we want to share a little bit more about our experience transitioning to carnivore. So I think it's important to keep in mind that everyone comes from a different past, everyone comes from a different way of eating. So your experience is not going to be like anyone else's. You're going to have your own unique experiences and your own unique challenges. I think it's also important to consider that not everyone has it figured out. We don't have it figured out. There's very little like science backing on like what is optimal, blah, 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 blah. What's important is that you venture and find, insert your name's carnivore approach that's sustainable for you.
Yes.
So I'm gonna share, I'll give mine first.
Yeah, well, just like to provide an example of that, Ashley and I have lived together for a very long time throughout like college now, and we've done the same things. And so we actually got a stool test done and had very similar gut microbiomes, yet coming to carnivore we had drastically different experiences. So you go since you went first.
Yeah, so my switch to carnivore, I was keto beforehand, but I was plant-based keto and my main source of protein was egg whites. My transition, I made the jump pretty quickly. So I just jumped into carnivore, full meat approach, no vegetables, nothing. So I just stripped those right away. So I went from being plant-based keto straight into carnivore. And like we mentioned earlier in the video, I really focused on increasing my electrolytes, having high fat, being in a caloric surplus so that my body had plenty of calories and nutrients to thrive. And honestly, I did not have that rough of a transition. One thing that I did notice was my strength slightly decreased in the gym at the start, and we'll do a completely separate video on like training while being carnivore, but that has gone back to normal now as well. I did full 30 days of no artificial sweeteners, so no pre-workout, no coffee, straight meat, animal products, and salt. And I felt amazing at the end of those 30 days. And then I started to add other...
Even with bad digestion?
I mean, energy-wise and brain focus-wise, I felt amazing. In our previous video about like constipation issues, I definitely struggled with my digestion system in the first 30 days. It was not regulated, it was not good at all, and it was making me question whether or not this was worth it. But when that got sorted out, really things started to really come together in full circle. So that was my experience. Sarah had slightly different of a transition period.
So I was eating a lot of the same things she was eating beforehand, but when she was transitioning into carnivore, I was still in my bikini bodybuilding prep. And so I didn't want, at the time, I didn't think it was a good idea to just like jump into a completely different lifestyle. So during my prep, my carbs got very low anyways. I was eating about 10-15 grams total carbs per day, 20 grams, and I was filling those all with vegetables. So I was eating just like straight up bok choy. And what that did for me was like it allowed me to really slowly adapt and go into carnivore slowly. At the end of my prep, I was almost sick of the bok choy, and I was ready to just eliminate those last few carbs. And so you could either take the I'm gonna jump in, rip the bandage off approach, and might work better for you, maybe even if you have like a very bad sugar addiction to get rid of, or you can take the like slow transition, go lower carb until you
add
finally
more and more meat,
zero carb. And that worked for me, but like we already talked about this in the constipation video, we had a different digestion system going on. But I think she had been doing a lot of research into carnivore, and so she was able to teach me as she went, and I think that really helped me accept like, oh, like this actually it's worth trying.
You don't need these vegetables.
Yeah, so I think doing the research along the way was like a major key.
What approach you take, whether it's the slowly transition out of being plant-based and slowly remove those plants over a course of a few weeks and add in more and more animal, or you rip the band-aid off approach that I did. I think you really need to analyze what your personality type is and which one works better for you. I think both of those approaches are valid. It just depends on what's going to be the most sustainable for you.
Yes, and also a lot of people question whether we were missing our like vegetables and stuff, and for me, I had gotten so sick of bok choy because I was eating it every day that I was like, I almost could envision, if you've had bok choy before, you know, like the green leaf, I could like envision it wrapping itself around my insides, and I was ready to be done with it. So ever since then, like, no, I have not missed vegetables, but that also is going to depend on you. You might really be heavily attached to your cauliflower, I don't know.
Yeah.
That being said, once you're in carnivore and you do it for a good amount of time and say you are feeling better, the reverse is true. You can start slowly seeing what your body tolerates well. Yeah. Like if you miss an avocado and seeing if you respond. That's a whole other video
that we'll get into.
But yeah, so that is our experience transitioning to carnivore. Those were like a little bit of tips, and yeah. Namaste.
Now we are going to eat in peace because y'all got to watch us eat yesterday, okay? But in other news, really quickly,
I've been killing it since
96.
96.
Oh, it's still not focusing on you.
I look the exact same. It's because it's focusing on me now. I look the exact same.
Oh, it's still
really struggling. There we go. There we go. So no, I haven't always been lanky. I was a stub.
Yes. Well, would you look at that? It is time for platter number 2. So we are keeping it pretty simple today. We've got a large mound of raw beef suet, and then using the leftovers of some cuts of steak that we had. So skirt steak, round steak, chuck steak.
That was disgusting. Look at this fat cap though. Oh my god, don't cut that
So
off.
beautiful. And then some of our braised kidney stew and some wiggly jiggly bone broth. Everything seasoned with Redmond. And it is indeed time to eat. Yo!
So I want to close out this video with one final tip, and that is to get yourself a pair of chopsticks. So honestly, they just make the entire eating experience much more pleasurable. You can pick up your suit, you can put it in the mouth. Call it a day. Alright.
Behave like an angel.